Hey everyone, welcome back to Aurelia City in City Skylines. Last time we wrapped up the River Island. We built a second part of the university campus on it with some research buildings, student housing, public transport and lots of details. We also changed the highway infrastructure and built the little island that the new interchange is on. Today we will start with something similar, but then we will build a very important project, and that's going to be a new public transport hub combining the trains, light rail and trams. Is going to serve as a center of a new major expansion of the city. And lastly, we will take a look at the old industrial zone and wrap it up. So let's go. Okay, so we have a lot of things to do today, so let's get to it. Now, first, I need to build a new interchange. As you could have seen in that previous shot that showed the area that we are going to build today, there is also that branch of the river that I built newly when I was doing those major changes to the map in that episode a couple of months ago. And that's going to be the branch of the river that I need to cross somehow. We already have the trains coming over it. Well, just the passenger trains, but also in the future we need to. Well, right now today we need to provide some kind of a way for cargo trains as well, because we have that cargo coming from the airport, for example, or maybe I'm just going to add another like a line or tracks that are coming from off the map. So something like that needs to be connected. And we're also going to do some kind of preparation for an industrial zone that's going to be on that mainland area. So those tracks just need to go there, and also a highway, because it makes only sense that we are going to just connect that part into the highway network from this side, and even allow some direct access inside the industrial zone. All right, so some kind of a three-way interchange. And I decided that I just want to use something slightly different. I could have built a very simple interchange just like I did last time, but I'm going to do something quite different. I'm not really sure what this type of interchange is. I suppose it could be like a stack interchange, it could be called that way, but the main highlight of it is that it's going to have slightly different the highway ramps coming from the roads. It's actually going to be coming. The left turns are going to be coming from the left part of the highway, so that's not exactly standard. Usually you are going to split into like going right and then somehow loop around, or above or under the main path. But this one is going to be slightly different. It's going to be quite tall, but it doesn't really matter because this place is going to be just nature. It's going to be just rocks. We are going to do some changes to the terrain as well, and it's going to look very similar to that piece of land with the infrastructure from last time. All right, so we're going to do a lot of rocks, a lot of details with trees, and some decals and stuff like that. Anyway, so I'm also using that technique as I did in the previous episode. I don't really want to spend that much time doing this interchange, so I'm just copying the shapes for the ramps, for the turns, curves. I'm just copying the shapes of those procedural object cylinders. Again, it's working perfectly fine. It's a very fast and easy way of doing these kinds of connections. And doing this way, you can also ensure that you will have all of these turns with the same radius, because you don't need to, but it's obviously much better to just follow the shapes of the same sized cylinder like this. It's not exactly all that super simple to do this with just the curve tools in the game. Also, if you want to do curves, I've talked about this many times before. When you want to do curves in City Skylines and they have less than 90 degrees, it's not exactly a circular curve anymore. It's kind of distorted, like a parabolic shape. So it's much better to just copy these kinds of shapes if you don't really want to do like a super precise geometry with some kind of a different technique. And this highway is not really going to be in the center of attention, so that's a perfect place to use some kind of a simplified solution like that. So it's finally coming together already. I was doing this on the live stream, if you've been there, if you remember. So this, well, kind of took a long time on the streams, just as everything else on the live streams. But as far as interchange builds go, it was not exactly all that difficult. In here, this road is the one that's going to be coming to that new bridge over that branch of the river, and it also has those four for ramps that are coming to it. And I finally decided that I'm going to detail it. I guess I didn't show it in here, but I just detailed it with the same technique as last time. I even just copy pasted that intersection marking tool details. Now, this actually took a really long time because I was experimenting with different bridge designs. And this is what I finally decided on with some suggestions from the chat. So, at first I wanted to use these railway bridges, two instances of them side by side with the highway going through the center. So it would basically be just on the same level as everything else. But it wasn't exactly that nice looking, and it was kind of wide and a bit strange with the connections on the sides. So I decided that I'm going to do a stacked bridge. It's going to have two levels. The upper level is going to be the highway, and the lower level is just going to be reserved for the tracks for the passenger line coming into the industrial zone. And also on the right side, looking at it from downtown, it's going to have the cargo line. That's not really going anywhere right now, but it will. I will connect it. Now, that meant that the bridge needs to be wider, because this is a bridge that's just a network, and it already comes with a rail. It's just a bridge version of some of the tracks, some of the railway tracks, right? This is the Italian bridge. I'm pretty sure it's connected in the collection in the workshop for the railways, right? For the standard railways. So it also had these pillars, but since the bridge wasn't cutting the river perpendicularly, I decided to use procedural objects of those bridge pillars and do the base of the pillars angled to the river. So I had to rotate them, and I think it looks just much better. I was at this point planning on maybe doing some kind of like a river traffic in that place, so that would only make sense that the pillars are going to not take as much space in the footprint of the bridge, right? So yeah, so that's done. So it has the highway going on the top. It doesn't really have any specific or pillars or special kinds of connections. It's just that the highway kind of looks like it's cutting through the cables of the bridges. And I think from civil engineering point of view, it looks all right. It looks fine. It's just a nice looking structure in this area. It's kind of slim because it combines the different levels. So that's exactly what I was really aiming for. And like I said, it was kind of a suggestion from the chat when I was building this, so it worked out in the end. Now, very important thing, and we need to finish the landscaping around the newly built interchange and also work our way towards the old industrial zone and just do some changes to the landscaping there. Otherwise, this place was completely flat and non-interesting, and I would really like to wrap it up. So that's exactly what I'm doing in here. Now, I'm trying to create, again, just like last time, some kind of ridges, valleys, and all these kinds of terrain features. And later I'm going to put rocks in there and lots of trees. You could have also seen, maybe you don't remember, it's been such a long time, but I also decided to delete some of the roads coming from the industrial zone because the industrial zone, the old one, is just not going to grow anymore, okay? I decided that I'm going to completely just wrap it up today with that industrial zone. Some of the highway connections that I haven't finished, I'm just going to get rid of, and that's going to be it for that one. So the plan for some kind of a cargo harbor below the dam is scratched. I don't really want to continue with that. Maybe I'm going to do a different cargo harbor elsewhere in the city, like a small one for river boats, but I don't really want to just work on the edge of the map like that. I had some issues with the water physics outside of the regular 25 tiles, and I don't know, some graphic issues here and there. So I really just want to work in those original 25 tiles, and I don't really want to do that many projects so far away from the city, because I don't really want to expand the city that much. I need to be mindful of those limits that are kind of difficult, that are inevitably going to be a problem. So it only makes sense that we are going to focus more on building the center of the city, and these kinds of outer layers of the city are just going to be wrapped up how they are in this current state, and that's going to be it. All right, but don't worry, we are going to see some industry, and we are actually going to see it very soon in the next episode. So today we are just preparing some infrastructure for it or around it, even for some future residential or commercial office expansion, and next time we are properly going to do the industry. Now, this monstrosity that I'm doing in here, I was just trying to build some kind of those cargo railways, and I really wanted to do some uniform geometry. I eventually screwed it up, unfortunately, doing this technique, because I connected those little circles in a bad way. So these transitions between the curves are not exactly perfect, but it works. And obviously, I was doing that technique because I wanted to have how many? 1, 2, 3 different curves in here for the cargo railway. And I really wanted to have all of them with the same radius. It would just look much, much better, much cleaner that way. So that's why I was preparing those roads with the specific geometry so that I could copy the outer edges of those template circles with the railway, right? I'm not really sure if that's the technique that's like feasible for these kinds of builds, but I just tried it out. I was thinking of maybe updating my old tutorial for geometry of roads or railways, as you could have seen, but I'm not sure. It might be maybe an interesting idea. Anyway, let's talk more about the main focus of this area, and that's of course the public transport hub. So it's going to be on multiple levels, as pretty much all the transport hub all the transport hubs need to be, because it just combines some different paths for the trains, for the light rail, and the trams. So the trams, they are going to go on the surface level, on the road level. They are going to be going on that wide avenue road that is coming from the bridge, that is coming from that island transfer station. So this is the tram line that is going to have the railways vehicles that are coming from the island city. Now, this light rail, that's not going to be connected today yet, because we have still a lot of open spaces here that I need to finish, that I need to put the light rail through. But this is the same line that we have seen all the way back in the suburbs area. So that's the line that we started the suburbs with, the one that goes parallel to the river pretty much all the way to the other side of the city. This is the line that I'm kind of planning on doing the first person shot of as well, because it mostly goes on the surface on some kind of really interesting areas. But this is going to be the second to last station. It's not going to be the terminus just yet. We're going to do that next time, but it's going to be pretty much the terminus station, because that's where the majority of people are probably going to arrive to or start their journey on. So it's going to be sunken compared to the street level, and it's going to be on the same level, I think, as the railway, but it's going to go parallel to it. And later, when we're going to do some expansion, going further closer to the downtown, then it's probably just going to somehow bypass the railway as well, going to go underneath it or something like that. It's definitely not going to cross it, that's for sure. So I'm providing a lot of pedestrian access. Well, not really just now, but I'm just creating some bridges, some elevators that are later going to be filled with all the pedestrian paths. So in this particular case, I'm doing the elevators. I'm doing them on both sides so that people don't need to cross the light rail tracks in here, and they can just use the elevator on both sides and cross the path like that. Later, I'm also going to do another elevator or another access that's going to be on the other side of that highway road, so that people can really access all of these places without much trouble. So this place should be nice and walkable. And also the train station, they can access it that way too. I'm also trying to create some kind of retaining walls on the side of the highway, on the side of that train station. I decided to do these like steps with grass on it. It's going to be filled with lots of flowers, obviously decorations. I didn't really want to put some kind of a hard looking concrete wall, like a very tall concrete wall, single concrete wall on the sides, because it would just not look very good. So I think that this somehow green solution, semi-green solution worked out very, very good. This is going to be like a little dead-end road in here. It's kind of aiming to that wedge, which is created by the railways and the light rail. And this building, oh my god, this building just fits so perfectly. I know I've been using this building for, so many times in the city before, but I just can't help it. With these kinds of wedge shapes, it's just perfect, and I have absolutely no problem with recycling structures that I've already placed because it just fits so perfectly. I just had to, okay? Now, these retaining walls that I'm placing all around here are going to fit perfectly to the sides of that building. And I'm also going to do the retaining walls on the side of the train station, of the sunken train station. By the way, the train station is from the workshop, and it's kind of old, I think. I've been using this one in Rockdale, if I'm not mistaken. And it already is sunken, so it's very easy to work with it, even in semi-vanilla game, I suppose. So you can easily just get it and place it and be done with it. It's obviously aimed for the tracks coming from both directions of it directly into a tunnel, I suppose, because you are supposed to, well, you can place it however you want, of course, but I guess that the best placement for it is with track tunnels on both sides. So you can just place some buildings, obviously, on top of there. I'm obviously using a lot of intersection marking tools in here and the node controller to really customize a lot of these different intersections and the parking lot as well. I really like the parking lot, by the way, in this place. It just creates, I think I more like it because of the color. It just has that black, like a big place that just fills with black color, which is kind of interesting in this place. Just creates a nice contrast maybe with the green. And when it's going to be filled with cars, not really today because there are not really going to be that many buildings around, but when it's going to be filled with cars, I think it's going to be really interesting. I know I was against the idea of using open parking lots in Aurelia because it's kind of a wasted space, but we are not in the downtown, so I think that it's perfectly fine. This place is going to be open a lot anyway, so might as well just do something like that. And as even a decorative element, I know it's kind of a weird way to talk about parking lots, but I don't know, I just kind of like it. I just really like it there. Anyway, this is me doing that retaining wall on the side of the train station, and I really like it how it just fits to the model of the train station, because the model of the train station already has these edges that are slightly angled. So I'm also using these concrete walls to angle them with procedural objects and just extend them all the way to that wedge building, and then just end the concrete in there, and it just fits so nicely. This is a really satisfying part of all kinds of detailing projects in City Skylines, when you do these detailing things and you are connecting these different parts or different elements of models between what you already have in the game. So that's just great. That's just great. By the way, at this point, I realized that it is actually possible to change the elevation of parking lots. It's not really going to change the actual paintings, but it will change the invisible parking spots for cars. So that might come in handy if you are creating some kind of elevated parking spots on buildings, for example, if you want, or parking garages, then you can actually do that. It takes a bit of trial and error, I suppose, because you just need to put it into a certain height and wait for cars to actually use it. But anyway, in this case, we are just on the surface, so it doesn't really matter. It's just something that I noticed. I already detailed the parking lot. I already put, well, the parking spots in there, some kind of crosswalks through the area, and lights, street lights. Now we are going to do some kind of planters on the sides of the train station. So the edges of the train station are somewhat rough. Also, this road that is coming over the train station building, well, not really the platforms, but obviously the roof is going above the road slightly. It has to come at a much higher, well, not much, but slightly higher elevation than the surface level, let's say, of the station is. Because there is, on the model of the station, there is like a railing on the edges of it, so I need to just go above those railings. So that's why there is some terrain difference in there, and it creates these kinds of weird just edges in here, inconsistencies with the detailing. Also, because I'm using a surface road to come over the platforms, I have to provide some sort of a bridge structure, so the edges, again, just using the concrete walls that I did before, because it makes sense to unify the elements, and hiding the shadows using this technique just with the ploppable surfaces. Later I'm going to put asphalt in there and some decorations on the road. I'm not really sure, but I think that I recorded this back when I still didn't have the new version of the intersection marking tools, so I didn't really have the possibility to repaint segments. So I was still using the old and completely outdated these days technique of placing the decals as lines on the segments, right? But it's not really that big of a deal because I just really wanted to put some sort of detailing in here to differentiate the lines or lanes for the trams, because there's going to be a tram stop right there, and that's obviously going to be blocked for access by vehicles, right? So that's why I really wanted to do some kind of a decal. These edges, I really like how the process just went. I just created these retaining walls, concrete walls here and there, and filled it with this grass. Later it's going to have some nice flowers in there, and as you can see, it's already looking much more polished, this entire area. It was a bit rough with all the cliffs or the rough terrain edges here and there, so this is just improving it a lot more. And again, this is just a very satisfying thing. I finally decided, by the way, this tower building, this office building, I really want to have one big tower building in this area, so that's going to be this one. This entire place all around is not really going to be that super high density. I'm thinking that it's going to have maybe some low density residential areas. It's going to have that industrial place as well on the tip of this mainland. But this tower, I just wanted to have like one big tower building, office building probably, on the edge of the city. I don't know why, but it just felt fitting for this area. So that's the one. And I decided that it's not going to start at the surface level, or the surface of the road, but it's going to start at the level of the railways. And that's because it's going to nicely form the edge of that sunken area of the railways. So I just put all the retaining walls to the side of the building, and the building itself is kind of a continuation of these retaining walls. So that's just absolutely perfect. I really like combining these different elements. Later I'm going to put more office buildings here and there, but they are definitely not going to be that tall. They're going to be much shorter. So finishing some of these retaining walls for even that sunken area for the light rail and this road. This road is probably going to go into maybe some residential areas. I haven't really decided. This place is going to be a bit of a pickle to figure out how to expand after the industrial zone in the next episode, but I'm obviously going to figure something out. Also, very important thing, making this place functional. So that's the third elevator right there on the left side of the highway that I was talking about, and as you can see, it is going to receive its pedestrian connections. So people are going to be able to walk all around this, and there's even going to be another connection down to that area on the left side of that highway. Yeah, this one. So I'm going to do that next time, and this place is really going to be very walkable. So people will have all kinds of opportunities to just cross this entire place. Yeah, this is the office building that I talked about. It's pretty much forming another edge of the sunken area for the trains. Also some kind of a wall, a barrier to just shield maybe even the noise from the trains. This wall, I'm not really showing it that much, but it's going to look very good in the first person ride because it's just nicely decorated. It has like some kind of a mural on the side. It's looking really, really good. Also the flowers we need to do. There is this little planter already part of that road that I'm having the tram station on, and all kinds of these surfaces with the procedural object grass also need to receive some kind of bushes, mostly bushes and flowers. I don't really want to put trees in them, even though in some larger areas I will. So the plans for next time, we are going to do the industrial zone. It's going to be like a high-tech, new looking industrial area. It's going to be very dense. It's going to be on multiple levels, so that's something new. It's going to be on quite a lot of levels actually. And well, because this place is kind of tall, this entire hub is much higher than the water level is. But since I want to create maybe even some sort of a small cargo harbor for the industrial zone, it needs to go all the way down to the water. It's going to have some concrete quays on the side. So it's going to be really interesting. It's going to be really interesting. It's not going to be that big in terms of the footprint, but it's going to have a lot of buildings because it's going to be very, very dense. Now, we are coming back to that old industrial zone, and this is me kind of wrapping it up. So as you can see, I'm constantly checking the CSL show limits mod that's telling me the tree number, the tree count. And I'm really trying just not to really overdo it that much with the trees here. But at the same time, I want to just use the tree brush and just cover this area with trees. So there used to be, a very long time ago, I built like a loop, underground loop for trains that would go down to some sort of a future cargo harbor. I decided to completely get rid of that idea and just cover that area with trees, and that's done. That's all we're gonna see of that old industrial area. I just did the landscaping around it and lots of trees, and that's gonna be it. Like I said, I really wanted to just continue doing places more inside of the city. I really don't want to, try the limits that much, so that's just going to make more sense. This is the transition for the part of the industrial zone. As you can see, the landscaping changed quite a lot. The trees made this place look so much better. And this is going to be the transition of that transport hub, where you can see the new bridge. It kind of changed the path for the passenger trains, and even slightly for the road coming over the water. But otherwise, it's looking really good. It's looking really good. So there are not that many buildings. It's just the transport hub that we did today. You can see a couple of cars parked on the parking lot. Right now it's empty, but it's going to be much, much busier because there are going to be some buildings all around it. It's not going to be that super dense, at least coming closer to downtown, even though the industrial zone is. But that's going to be slightly somewhere else. I'm not really sure about all the areas around this place, but I can safely say that the industrial zone that we're going to do next time is going to be very, very dense. And it's going to be directly on the side of this area as well. So it's going to nicely finalize it and connect it. This wedge building, absolutely perfect. I just like how that wedge building managed to fill that place between the railway and the light rail. Obviously, that's a bit of a easier case because I had the control over the railway. Well, not really the railway, because that was coming straight over the bridge, but the light rail. I could have just used the light rail to really fit it with the shape of the building. But if I'm using that building, maybe in the downtown, in some areas that are already done with the infrastructure, it's probably a bit more satisfying that it fits because, you already have that place, you already have the shape, and now you're going to fit the building into it. So that's much better. But that's not really taking anything away from the satisfaction of placing it right there. This is the final shot of the old industrial zone. Wave at the old industrial zone, guys, because that's all that we're going to see from it. It's quite big. I wanted to make it maybe bigger. I maybe had some plans for a power plant area, but it's just on the very edge of the map, and I really don't want to build outside of the 25 tiles. And like I said, I'm kind of afraid of the limits, so I would rather finish the inside of the city rather than just do some kind of, never-ending expansion of some of these areas. If you enjoyed today's episode, please click the thumbs up button, leave a comment, and share the video. And also subscribe to the channel if you are new here and you would like to see more. I also thank all the channel members who are directly supporting the channel and what I do here. If you want to become a channel member too, you can use the join button below or the link in the video description. In the next Aurelia episode, we will stay right next to this new hub and we will build a high-tech multi-level industrial area with a light rail loop. So stay tuned for that. Take care and goodbye.